Imagine waking up to a normal Tuesday morning, sipping coffee, getting ready for work, kids heading to school, just another day in America. But within hours, the world would witness one of the darkest days in history, a tragedy that changed everything. This is the story of September 11, 2001. It all began at Boston's Logan International Airport. American Airlines Flight 11 took off at 7:59 a.m., carrying 81 passengers and 11 crew members. It was supposed to reach Los Angeles, but just 15 minutes into the flight, 5 hijackers took control. Mohammed Atta, the ringleader, forced his way into the cockpit, and at 8:46 a.m., the plane slammed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At first, many thought it was a terrible accident. News anchors scrambled to make sense of what had just happened. People in New York stood frozen, staring up at the burning tower, unaware that this was just the beginning. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175, another hijacked plane, crashed into the South Tower. A second explosion rocked Manhattan. Now there was no doubt America was under attack. Inside the White House, panic spread. President George W. Bush was in a Florida classroom reading to children when his chief of staff whispered in his ear, "A second plane has hit the second tower. America is under attack." Cameras captured the exact moment his face changed. But instead of reacting immediately, Bush remained seated for 7 more minutes, trying to process what was happening. Meanwhile, chaos unfolded in the air. American Airlines Flight 77 had taken off from Washington, D.C., bound for Los Angeles. At 9:37 a.m., it crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. Flames erupted, smoke billowed into the sky, and the heart of America's military was now burning. Back in New York, terrified civilians ran through the streets, covered in dust and debris. Some, trapped on the upper floors of the towers, faced an unthinkable choice: perish in the fire or jump. It was a sight too painful to watch. And then, at 9:59 a.m., the South Tower collapsed. A 110-story skyscraper, reduced to rubble in seconds. At the same time, a fourth hijacked plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was still in the air. But this time, passengers had learned about the previous attacks through phone calls. Realizing they were on a suicide mission, they fought back. In an act of true heroism, they stormed the cockpit, trying to overpower the hijackers. The plane, instead of hitting its intended target, possibly the White House or the U.S. Capitol, crashed into a field in Pennsylvania at 10:03 a.m. Their bravery saved countless lives. Then, at 10:28 a.m., the unthinkable happened. The North Tower collapsed. The skyline of New York forever changed. Thousands of firefighters, police officers, and ordinary people ran toward danger, trying to save lives. Many never made it out. By the time the dust settled, nearly 3,000 people were dead, over 6,000 were injured, and America would never be the same. The world watched in shock. Airports shut down, the stock market closed, and every country stood still, mourning the lives lost. Investigations revealed that the attacks were carried out by 19 hijackers, all linked to the terrorist group Qaeda, led by Osama Bin Laden. But why did they do it? The roots of this hatred trace back to decades of conflict. During the 1980s, the U.S. supported Afghan fighters, including bin Laden, to push back Soviet forces. But after the Gulf War in 1991, bin Laden turned against the U.S., condemning its military presence in the Middle East. He declared war on America, planning these attacks in secret for years. In response, the U.S. launched the War on Terror. Within weeks, American forces invaded Afghanistan, targeting the Taliban, who had provided bin Laden with a safe haven. Countries worldwide joined forces, freezing terrorist funds, strengthening airport security, and preparing for a new kind of warfare. The Patriot Act was passed, giving the U.S. government sweeping surveillance powers. Airports introduced strict security screenings, no-fly lists, and reinforced cockpit doors. Travel would never be the same again. But it wasn't just policies that changed. The world changed. Islamophobia rose, affecting millions of innocent Muslims worldwide. Conspiracy theories spread, questioning everything from government involvement to controlled demolitions. People wanted answers. But one thing was clear: life before 9/11 was gone forever. Years later, after a decade-long manhunt, U.S. Navy SEALs finally found Osama bin Laden hiding in Pakistan. On May 2, 2011, he was killed in a secret operation. America had avenged 9/11, but the scars of that day would never fade. Now, more than 2 decades later, the world still remembers. The 9/11 memorial stands where the towers once stood, with the names of every victim engraved in stone. Every year on September 11th, the world pauses to remember the lives lost. This wasn't just an attack on America. It was an attack on humanity, a reminder of how fragile life is and how quickly everything can change. So let's never forget. Let's remember the heroes, the first responders, the passengers of Flight 93, and the innocent people who lost their lives that day. If you found this video informative, make sure to like, share, and comment. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon for more deep, eye-opening content. See you in the next video. Until then, take care.